Go ahead and get started. It is 11:02, and we've got about 6 people who are here. So thanks everyone for joining us. You are in the BEAD Round 2 pre-registration guidance webinar, and today we are focusing on tribal nations and communities. And so we've got the slideshow ready to go, and I will do also some quick introductions of who is here with us today to present this information. And then we're going to dive in, and I'll get to some house cleaning after that. So first, my name is Kelly. I think I introduced myself, the Broadband Community Engagement Manager. Thank you again for joining us and making time. Our round 2 is on schedule, set to open on June 3rd. And then with me, I also have Okasana Beatty. Okasana, do you want to unmute and say hello?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. And then we also have Jason, who is from Ready. Jason, I'll let you unmute and say hello.
Hi everyone, Jason Aloya with the software vendor helping out the state of Arizona.
All right, thanks, Jason. So Jason will be here to do a demonstration of the Ready portal, which is great. And then I also have some other folks joining us from the governor's office and also our consultants from KPMG to assist with any detailed questions. But I'm going to go ahead and get us started here. Moving on to the next slide. So quick agenda of what we're covering today. We'll do a quick overview, high-level overview of BEAD and our timeline, and then we'll toss it over to Jason, who will do the portal demonstration, and then we'll get into the details of that pre-registration process. So again, we're focusing today on tribal nations and communities and what this pre-registration process looks like, because it can be a bit different for the tribal project areas and the nations and communities that are applying. So first we'll start with this overview and timeline. And so here, this is a lot of text on one page, and I'm sure everyone's familiar with it, so I'll do high level. But as we all know, Arizona has been allocated almost $1 billion in funding for the BEAD program. So we have $993.1 million, and that is to implement BEAD across the state. The focus is on the household level and the unserved and underserved households and BSLs within the community. So those BSLs are the broadband serviceable locations. Our priorities are the unserved, the underserved, and we're also including the CAIs, the community anchor institutions. And just for a note for everyone, state and local government facilities and nonprofit organizations are included and considered CAIs, those community anchor institutions. And those are the areas that have digital access for the vulnerable members of the community. And then in that blue box on the side there, it lists the eligible project area criteria. So again, this is focusing on the unserved and underserved BSLs, and it's required that every eligible unserved and underserved BSL is a part of the project area and the application. And then there are extra points. An applicant would score higher for any CAIs that are included. Project areas can be grouped together if they're reasonably adjacent. And then if there are applicants who are partnering together, there has to be one lead applicant on the application, and that's who will fill out the pre-registration and the applicant itself. And then before I continue, because I was just so excited to share details, I did not do the housekeeping. So let me just say, questions, please put those into the Q&A. There's a little box at the bottom of your screen. If your user interface looks the same as mine, says Q&A, that's where you can plug your questions in. So at the end of every slide, I will take a look at that Q&A box and see what questions there are. You can upvote other people's questions. So if you like a question somebody else asked, you can upvote that. And then also, if you wouldn't mind right now, we did do introductions off the top. If you can plug into the chat your name and the entity you're representing today, that's very helpful to us to know who's with us. So the Q&A is where we'll look for the questions, and then you can also plug your introduction into that chat so we know who is here with us today. And I think that's it for the housekeeping. All right, and I think I've got everyone's settings so everyone can do what they need to where they need to do it. All right, moving forward. So the timeline here, Our BEAD Subgrantee selection timeline, this goes all the way back to when pre-registration started on November 4th. So you'll remember right before the holidays hit, that portal did open and it has remained open. So we had it open through round 1 of applications, and it remains open now for round 2 for pre-registration only. So if you did submit pre-registration for round 1, and then if you did apply for round 1 or you did not apply for round 1, if you completed that pre-registration and it was approved, and you didn't get anything about RFCs, or you worked through those RFCs and everything is settled, you're approved, you do not have to do that again. The pre-registration is one and done. So if you are applying for round 2 and you have not completed that pre-registration, this is what we're focusing on today. We want to make sure that everyone's able to get that pre-registration done in plenty of time for when the application window opens on June 3rd. It is a 30-day application window. It is shorter than the first round was. And we want to make sure everyone's got enough time to focus just on the application. So we're really emphasizing and stressing to please complete that pre-registration before June 3rd, so that when that window opens, your sole focus is that application. And then just to note here on the bottom, to see what happens after that application window closes, then we go through the review and the negotiation stage, which will take a couple of months for us to go through. The evaluation committee will review all of the applications individually, case by case, and then select the best applications and then go through the negotiation process. And that we anticipate will go through until September. All right, so moving forward, we'll do a quick demonstration of the portal, and I will stop sharing the screen so that Jason can share his and take you through that demonstration.
Thanks, Kelly. All right.
All right, you should be good to go.
Okay, the first thing I'll call out is that before pre-registration, all entities will have to request access to the ACA grant or portal. And you do that from this simple form link that you'll find linked to from the Arizona Commerce Authority's webpage. But some of you may have already done this, but if you haven't, this is an access request where you enter some basic information. And where this differs from a provider's typical request for access is tribal entities. When we ask for you to confirm which provider you represent, select other. If your name is not in the list, select other. When we request your provider name, this can be your tribal entity identifier, however you'd like your organization to be recognized. If you do or do not have a provider ID, select accordingly. There will be a request for you to explain if you do not have a provider ID. These provider IDs are issued by the FCC. If you do not have one, just remind the state that you are representing a tribal entity. Selecting yes, that you are the tribal entity, and then the remainder of the questions are pretty self-explanatory. The state will require your employee identification number and an FCC registration number or FRN. If that is not available, technical support can help you. But I will also say that any string that is 10 digits long will get you past this screen. So this is not a hard requirement for requesting access if you represent an eligible entity like a tribal entity that does not have an FCC registration number. Okay, once this is submitted, it may take a day or two for the state to review your request for access and accept. When that happens, you'll receive an email that gives you a direct link into the grant portal, which we are looking at here. You'll land on a page that looks a lot like this, only everything will be still unstarted. The exception being your organizational profile. That will have been started by the questions you submitted in the previous step. So by answering these questions, you've already begun filling out your organization profile. But let's get to the important topic of today's session, which is the pre-registration application. You'll come to this screen and click Start. And really, it's just a questionnaire online with a number of different sections that you'll be asked to fill out. There are sections and subsections. As you complete these questions and click Next, you'll notice that you get these nice green checks to give you a little bit of confirmation that all of the information required from the section has been provided and you can move on. A little bit about required versus optional fields. Anywhere, these aren't very big, but anywhere you see these red asterisks, that is a required field. And anywhere you do not, like here, those are optional fields. And so in this section, I've only had to answer this one question before I can get the green check and move on to the next. Now, there's a few different types of fields, but nothing terribly tricky about it. You will see select boxes like this, a yes or no question. Some questions ask for a longer set of text from you to describe your answer to the question. And another very common type of question are these upload features here. Now, these can support either a single document or multiple documents. So you can either click, which brings up your, a picture of your desktop, where you can then select one or more documents to attach them. Once they're uploaded, you can always return to your application and download a copy using this little icon here, or delete any mistakes you might have made or documents you did not intend to include. You can just remove them using the trash can icon that pops up here. The portal will save your work as you move through each step. So if you either hit the next button or the back button, you will have saved everything, all of the work that you've done. You can also, if you are in the middle of completing a section, you can always click this Save Application button, and that'll be sure to save everything. But most users find it convenient enough to just rely on these next and back buttons to make sure that your inputs are being captured. Underneath this ellipse, you'll see that there's more sections here, right? So there's more information the state requires that aren't able to fit horizontally. So you'll find them under this drop down here. And if we wanted to jump to the environmental and historical preservation section, we can do so by just clicking this link. And here again, we will certify, answer all of the required questions, and then we'll notice that now this section has been completed. Once everything's complete and you've got all of the green check marks where you need them across these 11 sections, you'll be ready to review and submit. You can download a PDF version of your entire application. And here we're dealing with your pre-registration application. And really all this PDF is a PDF version of all of the information that you have provided. And it'll look much like this. This review section is you can jump to different sections, review your work all in a single page. If anything is, if you are not able to submit, like I am currently not able to submit, it means that one or more of these required fields have not been filled out. And so you won't be able to submit and get a blue button here until you've got all these green checks. But really, that's it. Once you get through all of the sections, provide the requested information for all sections, this button will activate by turning a nice obvious blue color, and that means that you can submit that your application. When that's done, it goes into a queue for the state to review, and it will take any number of days for the state to review your application. You may get questions from the state and emails that will give you instructions on how to answer those questions. Or you may just be approved without any edits. And really, that's it. I see a hand up from Kelly, so I'll pause there.
Shocker, I know. So my question, Jason, and maybe you covered this. Um, is it possible, so for instance, if an applicant wants to go in and just get an idea of all of the questions and look at the pages before entering any details, they can just click at the top, is that right? Like between number 2, number 4, number 5? Is that
Yes,
okay,
that's a way, or an even easier way, maybe just to hop ahead to this review and submit page, and you'll see everything on one big long page. Or if it's more convenient, you can also download the PDF and look at it as a PDF format. And that'll include all of the sections and all of the questions.
perfect. Okay, so I think Jason is on this call for another 40 minutes or so. I'm not sure, but my point here is that if you've got questions about the portal, now's a great time to ask those. You can use that Q&A, ask your questions there. I just want to make sure that there are no hangups or any difficulties with the portal here. If there are, and of course your issues are always going to happen, not during business hours. I'm going to plug in the chat, the emails where you can contact us. And Jason, if I interrupted you, please continue.
Really, Kelly, that was it. I was just
Okay,
going to mention the emails that you were about to share. Both the state staff as well as our staff is here to provide support. The state provides any support for any questions about the policy or the BEAD program itself, and anything related to the portal or technical support questions will be routed to me and my team to answer for you from the email shared in the chat.
perfect. Thank you, Jason. Um, and to reiterate those 2 emails that I just plugged into the chat and that you will see on your screen in a moment. I can't do 2 things at once. Okay, so can someone just verify for me that you are seeing the same thing I am? The actual slideshow?
Yes, we're
Okay, thank you.
seeing.
Okay, so note on these two emails. Number one, the broadband at azcommerce.com, that goes to the state broadband office. Several people have eyes on that inbox. We monitor it daily. And if you have portal questions or any questions at all, send it to us and we will get it to the right person. There is an email for the portal directly. That's the AZ help desk at ready.net. You can reach out to them as well. But like I said, if you're doing this in the middle of the night and can't remember anything, remember that broadband email, get it to us, and we will get it to the right person for sure. So I don't want you to worry about emails or you sending it to the right person. We will get it routed, not a problem. All right, thank you, Jason, for that. We're going to move forward and dive into the pre-registration process itself. So many of you probably have access to the portal already, and that's great. And you can see these questions in there. And we're going to look into the questions we're asking, but also the why, into as far as why we are asking these details and what we're asking for. So the overview of this is that number one, pre-registration is the first step in the application process. So it's like pre-qualification. You're going to go in, you're going to create your account if you don't have one already, and then you're going to fulfill and fill out all of the pre-registration questions. So that's a mandatory step, and this is essentially the part to qualify you so that you can move forward into the application process. And so we'll take a look at what all of these qualification questions are. You can see on the screen we've got phase one and phase two. Phase one was that market sounding. We did that back in September, October, and November, and that helped inform the maps and the information as far as leading into the application process. The pre-registration phase is that one last step that needs to be taken and completed before moving into the application. And this is where you as an applicant get to learn all of the details that are going to be a part of that application process. So you're going to certify through the pre-registration process, provide some letters to say that you understand what is going to be asked of you, but also this gives you an awareness of what to expect as you move forward into that application process. So phase two is the project applications, and this is where approved pre-registered applicants will move into the application process itself. So right now we're in pre-registration. If you complete your pre-registration today and it's approved tomorrow, you will have access to that application on June 3rd. So June 3rd is the specific date that it opens. So whether you are approved today or on June 2nd, June 3rd is the day that you'll be able to actually see the maps and the application questions in the project areas. That's the official day that it opens. And with round two, that will show you all the areas that were picked up in round one, and you will see what is left for round two. So that round one was focusing on fiber. Round two moves into that alternative technology as well. And then this last box on the right, the purpose of the pre-registration. So we've got this guidance. It is on our website. I plugged that link into the chat. It's the pre-registration website. All of our support documents are there. And this is where you will provide and certify that you have the information necessary in order to apply. So this is where us as a state, we review what you are certifying and what you're submitting in that pre-registration process so that we can then determine all applicants if they are qualified to move into that application. And the specific areas we're focusing on are the financial, technical, managerial, and operational capabilities that are laid out in the BEAD NOFO. So the general requirements here, this is kind of a high level look at the basic criteria that is coming from the BEAD NOFO. And what we're looking to do here is assess every applicant's feasibility, their compliance, and see if this is a strategic fit. So the applicant will go in, provide this information, the ACA reviews it. And again, this is coming from the BEAD NOFO. And as you complete your pre-registration, you might get some questions back from the ACA where we are asking for more details to help clear up any questions that we might have before we can approve. So you've got the three circles here. That first one is this is where you are confirming your ability to carry out the activities that would be funded by the BEAD grant. That second circle is where you are certifying that you have the financial and managerial capacity to fulfill the obligations of the BEAD grant. And then that third one is certifying that you have the technical and operational capability to deliver the services that are specified in the grant. And as I said before, if you've got questions, please plug them into the Q&A. I will pause to take a look at those before I move on to the next slides. Your questions are incredibly important to us, especially with tribal nations and communities. We want to make sure that you have clarity and open lines of communication. All right, so first section is the financial capability. And here that we've got a number of things on the screen. We'll start with the top one, the certifications here at the top. And here we're asking applicants to certify that you are financially qualified to meet the obligations of the grant, that you have the available funds, you can adhere to the requirements, and you have the resources available until the disbursements are received. You'll see there that we're asking for a signed statement from an authorized executive, and that signed statement can be on letterhead coming from a signed executive or representative, authorized representative from your organization. The next box is the audited financial statements. So here we're looking for 3 years of audited financial statements. And we realize that not everyone may have 3 years of audited financial statements. And for instance, if you are new or starting a new provider with the BEAD funds, then you may not have the 3 years of audited financials. So then in that case, we would look for a full year of financial statements. Again, if there are questions on this as you're going through this, and especially for tribal nations, the financial capability and demonstrating this can cause concern and heartburn for the tribal nations and communities. And we want to make sure that you've got what you need so that you can demonstrate in your pre-registration process as best you can in a way that meets the needs of the tribe, but also the needs of the pre-registration process as dictated by the BEAD NOFO. So again, I'm just saying if there are questions, please reach out to us, use that email. And then also as you are filling out your information here, there are a lot of spaces in the pre-registration where you can provide a narrative. And that's where we're looking for you to tell us the story of your tribe and how you can meet the financial capability. So we've got those audited financial statements. If those aren't available, then we're looking for a full year of statements. And then the performance security. So this is where you, as a tribe, as an entity applying on behalf of a tribe, need to demonstrate the financial capability. And this is either through a letter of credit or a surety letter. So if you look on the right side, we've got the letter of credit. And there are 3 ways that you can meet that letter of credit, and that's through your credit unions, a performance bond, or a combined letter of credit performance bond. And so a few things to note with the credit unions, the letter of credit from a credit union, that is essentially a letter of credit for the 25% match. So it's a 25% match only, not the full grant. So part of this process does include the match. The BEAD NOFO requires that every applicant matches 25% of what they're asking for in their grant. And here, the credit union option allows you to do the 25%. If using a performance bond, the performance bond is actually for the full 100%. That includes the 25% match and also the 75% of the grant. So there's a difference there that we just want to make sure everyone is aware of. And again, as you're filling this out, there is opportunity for every applicant to input into the system, the pre-registration and the application system, the amount of match that they are able to provide. So it is not an automatic 25% where that is listed by the NOFO, but in the process itself in pre-registration and in the application, applicants are able to put in what they are able to meet. And then that gets your pre-registration to us and your application to us, where we then can review all the applications that come through and try to make a decision based on how many households are able to be served and what those numbers look like. So that's kind of the first slide of the financial capability. I'm keeping an eye out for questions. This is an area, again, that tends to bring up a lot of concern for tribal nations and communities. We want to know and understand what those questions are and see how we can help answer them so that you can get to a point of being able to complete that pre-registration and application. All right, the second slide of the financial capability. So material changes in financial condition. So here again, a lot of this is either certifying, the checkbox certifying, or providing a narrative. And this is where you can provide details and explanation to answer these questions. So the material changes, here we're looking for any changes in financial conditions that have happened in the past 3 years or are predicted to happen in the future. Then there's the credit rating, and that credit rating you can see here can be obtained from S&P Global, Moody's, Fitch Ratings. Those are some examples. If those aren't options for you, you can let us know, send us an email, let us know what works for you, and we can address that on a case-by-case basis. And then bankruptcy or insolvency. So potential applicants need to provide a summary of any current or prior past 3 years instances of bankruptcy or insolvency. And lastly, on the right is the failure to perform. And this is with regard to broadband deployment grants. So if there have been any grants that were applied for and then defaulted, we would need to know about that. And again, this is an opportunity to explain those circumstances of what it is that happened, how it was addressed, and how grants will be handled in the future. And this goes back all the way to January of 2019. All right, so I'm keeping an eye on those questions. Don't see any yet. If questions are not something you're able to type in, let's say you called in on the phone, at some point you can unmute yourself or raise your hand, put something in the chat. We'll take questions however they come in. So I just want to make sure everyone's able to get those questions. All right, managerial capability. So again, we're looking at 4 areas: financial, managerial, technical, and operational. And for managerial, this outlines what's needed. And this comes from the BEAD NOFO, and this helps us as a state to go through and understand um, the, the applicants, their business, and what they've done in the past, and the plan for moving forward. So we're looking for organizational charts at the corporate level, and then also for the applicant, and this would be the lead applicant here. We're also looking for qualifications. So here be describing past broadband projects, telecom projects, other projects of a similar scale. We're trying to get an understanding of the history and experience here. And then resumes, that's the middle peach colored box there. We're looking for resumes for the key players in this and the people who would have the biggest roles. So your key financial, technical, managerial positions, project managers, and then an explanation of the roles and the responsibilities. So we're looking in to see that there is a plan, that applying for this money and having a plan of who's going to be working on this project and what the roles are clearly established. Organizational readiness. Here we're looking to see you to showcase the readiness of your organization, the ability to handle any challenges, outline your resources, your partnerships, the infrastructure that you've got, and then a narrative on your managerial readiness. So here, demonstrating the capacity to manage a broadband network. Is this something you've done in the past? You can show us what has been done in the past. If this is something new, show us what the plan is moving forward. We're looking to see and ensure that there is a demonstrated capacity and that there is a plan in place for this. Okay, so more details on the technical capability. Again, all applicants have to demonstrate and certify their technical qualifications, provide details that you have a skilled and credentialed workforce, and submit your plan for this specific proposed project. So you've got the certification here, and you're certifying the qualifications, that these funds can be executed, and the activities and the obligations can be met. We're looking for credentials, licenses for those who are working on the project, and for the lifespan of the project. And this would require a signed statement by an executive that represents your organization application. And then the contractor selection process. So here we're looking to see what that selection process is. And if you have done this in the past, and we're looking to see those certifications, the qualifications, and for those who are new to this or haven't worked with contractors in the past, we're looking for what that plan is moving forward and what qualifications, training programs, certifications you are requiring of your future contractors. And that last box is for the skilled and credentialed workforce. So we have to outline the steps to ensure that the projects are going to be completed by that skilled workforce, that they have the credentials and the training, the licenses, the certifications that are required to get this specific work done. Okay, still keeping an eye on that Q&A box. All right, compliance with applicable laws. So in this first box here up at the top, when we say comply with all laws, this is everything. Federal, state, local laws, laws that might be specific to the tribal nations and communities. And this is where you will attest and confirm that you understand what those laws are and that you have been in compliance and will remain in compliance. If there have been any issues with this in the past, if there has been non-compliance, for example, we're looking for you to provide details of that, like explain the circumstances, what happened, what the resolution was, and what the plan is moving forward to avoid any non-compliance moving forward. That second box is kind of the same thing, but for I cannot speak, safety and health requirements. So here again, we're looking to make sure that your organization has been in compliance and will remain in compliance moving forward. So we're looking for the experience, the history from the past, but also if this is new or that experience and the history does not exist, moving forward, what is that plan and what will you do to stay in compliance? What does that look like? If there has been compliance and there is a demonstrated history, we're looking for the evidence of the training programs and any initiatives that have been implemented. All right. No questions yet. Like I said, plug it into the Q&A, into the chat. If you're on the phone, feel free to raise your hand. We can unmute you so you can speak as well. All right, the operational capability. Here, we're looking for evidence that you have been in this space before for at least 2 years. And again, there might be some organizations who are applying who haven't done this, and it's okay to be new in this space. And so in that, instead of a history, we'd be looking for that narrative to make sure that the capacity is there. So demonstrating the plans if this is new and there is no history to demonstrate that. So on the left side, we've got the history of the operations. This is for folks who have been operating for 2 or more years. And then that blue box for the certification of compliance with FCC regulations. This is for existing providers only. If you are a new provider, this box would not apply to you. And then that green box is for the new providers only. So again, we're looking for a demonstration that there is capacity to handle all of the operations that come in with for you to substantiate the infrastructure and sustain that infrastructure. Okay, ownership information. So again, this comes from the BEAD NOFO, and this again comes from the NOFO, and this might look very different for tribal nations and communities. And so if what you see on the screen here, these are the different ways to demonstrate the ownership. We would look for tribal nations and communities to tell us and have a narrative and explanation in the pre-registration process that, tell us what's applicable to you as a tribe. We're looking for a letter and a narrative to essentially explain your tribal government structure and whatever that ownership is so that you can provide that to us and explain it to us. All right, are there questions here? Okay. Public funding information. So here we're looking for any details on previously funded programs, specifically for broadband that maybe you have administered. So we're looking for details here, and we've got a list here of examples of previous grants that maybe have been awarded, and we would need to know the details of that public funding information. Okay, fair labor practices and highly skilled workforce. So again, here we're looking for information related to the fair labor practices and the use of a highly skilled workforce, if this is applicable to your application. To demonstrate that, we're looking for certification. So again, you have checkboxes in the pre-registration process where you are certifying, and then there's also opportunity to provide narratives, and there are times where you are uploading signed documentation from your authorized representative or executive. So here, we're looking for a few things. Similar to the applicable laws, we want to know that there is documentation and evidence of compliance with those federal and state labor and employment laws for the past 3 years. Again, if you're new, we would want to know what the plan is moving forward, if there's no way to demonstrate the past history. So if there is a past history, we want to see that demonstrated track record. And if there isn't one, we just need to see what that plan would be moving forward. If there is non-compliance, we would ask for to share any documentation that came out of that non-compliance, and that would describe what the situation was, but also help to explain what the plan is to maintain compliance moving forward. There is, I think, opportunity here again for that narrative, and there's also providing that evidence, which would be a letter or a written statement as well. All right, environmental and national historical preservation. Thought I skipped a page. Okay, so this again is checkbox certification. And the NTIA and the ACA, we want to ensure that all applicants are going to be in compliance and with all of the regulations, the policies, the acts that are in place, and especially on tribal lands. We want to ensure that the tribe is aware and in compliance, but also following what it is that the tribe wants to do and is okay with the tribe and approved. So this here, it's a certification, and that basically ensures that you're in compliance. A NEPA analysis will be required, and there are permits that are required as well. And again, permitting and requirements can be different on tribal lands. So we want to make sure that if there are questions or things are a bit different in your tribal project area, that you are discussing that in this certification process and taking the opportunity wherever there's a box to provide narrative to help explain that and provide more understanding for us. All right, the Build America, Buy America Act, BABA. This one, again, comes from the NOFO. It's a checkbox certification, and there is also an opportunity to provide a narrative on this one. So this is a requirement with BEAD as it stands right now, and we are asking applicants to certify, and there's also an opportunity for that narrative where you can explain the approach and the plan for this your particular tribal project area on this. But essentially, the bottom line of this is that all the components are sourced and built in the United States. Okay. Cybersecurity and supply chain risk management compliance. So we're addressing two things on this slide. We'll start with cybersecurity on the left. And here we're looking for again, coming from the BEAD NOFO, but we're looking to make sure that the organization has been and will be moving forward in compliance, essentially. So there must be a cybersecurity risk management plan in place and approved by your organization. So that plan's got to be in place. And for the NIST framework, we're looking for the most recent NIST framework, which I believe is the version 2.0 that was approved in February of 24. And then we've also got the security privacy controls and the evaluation and updates. So again, these are adhering to executive orders and the BEAD NOFO to ensure that security privacy controls are in place, that the system is evaluated, and that updates are recurring. With the supply chain risk management compliance, here, same thing. We're looking to see that there is a plan in place, and if this is not something that has been in existence, if this is a new organization, there does need to be that supply chain management, the risk management plan in place. You have to demonstrate that readiness and to operationalize the plan, like as once we hit go, essentially. And then key practices and guidance. So here again, there are some best practices here outlined from NIST. And we're looking to make sure that the best practices and the key practices are being followed and that it's evaluated and updated regularly. So as with everything, things tend to change. Updates are made, and we're looking to know that if changes are made to any of these plans, then you could notify the Commerce Authority within 30 days if any of these plans do change after you have submitted. Okay, so no questions yet. That doesn't mean there aren't any. Again, I want those questions to come in any way they can. You can raise your hand, put it in the Q&A, put it in the chat, do something to get my attention. Okay, so I know perhaps questions may be more specific to you, and there might be hesitation in asking them here. I did put in the chat, and I'll put it in again. You can email those questions to us in the office, broadband@azcommerce.com. I just put that into the chat. And we will do our best to answer in a way. We are in procurement. I do see a question, yay, but I'll finish my statement. We are in procurement right now, which means that we can answer questions on a high level, meaning anything that is public information, we can share that and answer your questions, but we have to be very careful and not help you and answer questions that might speak to the strategy of your application. So know that it isn't that we're not trying to help you. We want to help you as much as possible and get the questions answered, but we have to do it in a way that does not jeopardize the integrity of this procurement process. All right, so I do see an question in here. How soon will this webinar be posted online for other stakeholders to hear that they couldn't come today? So great question. This should be posted. In fact, there's a bit of a delay in getting it up online because it goes through a few steps. So what I can do is, number one, it usually is about a week, but I can email this a link to this recording to everybody who participated today so that in between, before the week is up, you still have access to this. So I can email that out, but the deck itself and the recordings always do go on our website. And the website they go on is this one. I'll plug it into the chat. So there's a webinar tab on that website, and you click on webinars, you'll be able to see all of the past webinar recordings. But like I said, I'll send an email to everybody from this today. And then Jenny had another question. When is the last date a pre-qualification application can be submitted? So this one's tricky. The last date is June 30th. The window remains open until June 30th, but the application window closes July 3rd. So that's why I say it's tricky. You could submit up until June 30th, but that is not leaving enough time for us to approve it and you to get your application in. So we're recommending as soon as possible. You could submit it June 3rd, June 4th. We're hoping for before June 3rd, just to ensure everybody's got that full 30 days. but that pre-registration window does actually remain open until June 30th. So hopefully I made that more than clear as mud. But it does remain open. We just really want to encourage everybody to get that done as soon as possible. Okay, so we had a few questions. If there are others, definitely send us an email. Please let us know. Again, we want to give you the information so you have what you need to make an informed decision and move forward. We are just encouraging, start the process sooner rather than later. Fill in the narrative, fill in the information, get that pre-registration to us, and we can go back and forth to get the information that's needed to get that approval so that you can start that application. Any questions, send it to us in the email, and I will wrap it up here. We will stop recording at this point.